have got an amazing guest over here to my side today. I'm really excited to interview Dr. Anna Cabeca. So welcome. Thank you for being a part of our summit. You have such amazing information, and I'm really excited to have you as part of the summit. So let's have you fill in our viewers, because as we just said a little bit pre-recording here, we've all kind of had our health crisis or health issues that have come about in our own lives, which have allowed us to figure out our own issues to be able to help others. So let's start out there, and then we're going to get into, you have a very specific approach on keto that I absolutely love, especially for women over 40. But let's start at the very beginning.
Absolutely. And so, my journey has been a tumultuous one, and that's why I'm so passionate about educating women to really, nip it in the bud as soon as possible, of course, to prevent, but definitely at the first signs of hormonal imbalance, the hot flashes, the irritability, the mood swings, the night sweats and difficulty sleeping in the middle of the night, all of those things, we got to nip that in the butt quickly. But for me, it really started at age 38. I was diagnosed with premature ovarian failure, early menopause. I was told I was never going to be able to have kids. My ovaries were shot, essentially. And it just was devastating because, we had a traumatic event in our lives, and my husband and I were trying to have another baby, and, failure after failure from there. It was really, really devastating. And so one of the things I learned after being told that, just, take antidepressants and sleeping meds, and, this is, nothing more we can do for you. I left my practice for a year, Lisa, and I traveled around the world. And this was like my education on the go. I grew up with my mom's philosophy that travel is one of your best forms of education. So I took that to heart. And I learned really how to naturally restore my health, my body, and what a difference that could make in my life. And lo and behold, I came back pregnant and had my beautiful daughter, Ava Marie, at age 41. So 3 years after I was diagnosed completely and irreversibly menopausal, and really turned things around. I went from over 240 pounds and more because I stopped weighing, right? And tremendous amounts of hair loss from stress, and, to maintaining a healthy weight at 150 and really balancing my hormones. And that was perfect till 48 hit. And then all of a sudden, that hormone shift, I was back into this. So I'd reversed menopause essentially for essentially a decade. And then at 48, I started getting 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 15 pounds. And all my patients, as an OBGYN, patients would tell me, well, I'm not doing anything different, but I'm gaining weight. I'm like, well, maybe you're more sedentary, maybe there's more something. And I'm like, oh man, and after you've lost 100 pounds, basically, I'm not going back there, right? So I'm like, well, what am I doing wrong? Like, starvation's not the answer. And then I heard, well, keto. Well, I was like, well, that makes me crazy whenever I would do a ketogenic diet, right? So I call that keto crazy. And whenever I tried to put my perimenopausal patients on keto, women over 40, they would feel crazy as well. And I'm like, okay, well, irritable, anxious. I'm like, okay, well, that's not good. Then I'm triggering this. I'm like, as a functional medicine doc at that time, I studied also functional medicine. I always detoxed my patients, getting alkaline. So I started checking my urine, and I was acidic. My urine pH was acidic. And we know, according to the research, the better alkaline your urine pH is, the less metabolic syndrome, less heart disease, less cancer, all of those good things we want. And so I'm like, aha. So of course it makes sense. We're eating a highly acidic diet. I'm going to have highly acidic urine. But if I was getting weight loss and not irritable, that might have been okay with me, but I knew the consequences over time would be devastating. So I worked to add low carb grains, to really work on the alkalinizers, get that first, and then get into keto. And actually I gained 20 pounds, lost 18 of them in 6 weeks. Wow. And after being stuck and just doing everything right, but seeing the scale continue to grow up, missing that piece. And then, over the years, just putting it together, working with clients in my online programs, and the natural solutions to put that together to help. And so that's just really changed my life, and now the life of, hundreds of thousands of women around the world. Just that concept of putting those two together, that really makes a big difference.
That's huge, because I think so often, because we'll often hear that keto is just this trend. It's just a buzzword right now. But there's people like you and I that have been sitting here talking about keto, or talking low carb at least, for almost 2 decades for myself, right? But people always thought it was Atkins, et cetera, et cetera. But I love the component that you've tied in the alkalinity portion of it, because so often keto people will think, well, I can just eat bacon and butter all day long. And that's not what we want to do, right? Like, not what we want to do at all. So let's dig into how you figured out with the alkalinity portion of it. This is something that a lot of keto people aren't talking about. So let's jump into that, how people can go towards the alkalinity, what foods are making them acidic, and how they can change that to get more alkaline. And like, we'll probably, let's also go through, because a lot of us, it's been a long time since high school chemistry, acid versus alkalinity. Because I have this conversation with my patients a lot, and they're like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, except I think you're on mute. Oh,
Yes. So remember, if we, back in biochemistry, it was the pink and blue, right? For alkalinity and acidity. And so when we look at just the pH, our normal, and it's excellent questions. You bring up everything, because we have to re-educate ourselves to look at how we can empower ourselves to heal our own body, right? Versus there's like, okay, well, only my doctor can test this, or only, this guru is going to tell me to do this. I'm like, every woman has to discern for herself what works for her and what doesn't.
Absolutely.
And in order to do that, it's a discovery process, and we have to test and try. So I say test, don't guess, and what gets measured gets managed. And that's why I have all my clients do urine testing. Just cost a couple pennies a day, urine pH testing. And that's just one thing to start with. So pH being the normal pH, we would say the midline pH is 7. And anything over 7 is considered alkaline. Anything below 7 is considered acidic. And different parts of our body have different pH levels. So when you hear the anti-alkaline or the alkaline myth stuff, we're not talking about blood pH that we're manipulating, because that's homeostasis. Our body will do everything to maintain that pH slightly alkaline at 7.4. Mm-hmm. And that is critically important. So, but in order for it to maintain that pH at 7.4, we have to feed it with alkalinizers, with minerals. We have to improve the kidney function. We have to improve cell membrane function. And all of that really happens at the cell membrane, which is so cool. The stomach acid is very low, like at 2, and urine pH will fluctuate as a thermostat of what's going on in our body. So it will change. After a workout, I expect it to be more acidic. We're like pouring out lactic acid. After a day in nature and our environment, I expect it to be more alkaline. Mm-hmm. And so we'll see those things, that how nature, not just our food, can impact us. I always say, diets fail because it's only 25% about what we eat. Right. We have to look at these other components that so affect our physiology and our overall health. And so that's the interesting part about our alkalinity and our alkaline pH.
And that our body's I always tell our patients, your body is a perfect representation of everything that you've given it, right? Or what you haven't given it. And like you said, the 7.4, your body's going to make sure it stays there for that blood, and it's going to rob from different areas of the body. And so we end up with all these conditions that, unfortunately, modern medicine just will throw one meta and throw another meta and da-da-da-da. So we have our patients coming in with all of the inflammatory diseases type stuff that you speak about in your ebook. But that's where we're looking at, and we've got to help. Patients have to take responsibility for their health. And that's where I love what you have just said is like, let's give them those urine strips. Let's give them ketone strips. Let's give them pH strips. And every single patient becomes responsible for what they're doing. Versus, I think so often, just being a healthcare practitioner, a lot of times patients will throw that on us as our responsibility. I'm like, well, wait a minute, I'm responsible for my own health. Like, each person has to take responsibility for themselves. So what are some of the foods, that everybody starts out their mornings with some coffee, right? So let's talk about some of the foods that might be causing them a little more acidic.
Yeah, and you just said it, we're all like, okay, keto coffee. But if we're not getting results, we got to ditch the coffee.
Mm-hmm.
We have to. And for me, that is absolutely one of my stalling factors. Like if I've hit a plateau or I'm not feeling energetic or I'm staying acidic, it's the coffee, whether it's keto coffee or not keto coffee. But let me tell you, keto chai tea, keto green tea. I mean, there's some amazing things we can do with adding some healthy fats. And I like that in the morning because it does feed our brain, it feeds our body. We're staying very, low carb in the morning. So I like that we give our body brain fuel right off in the morning as early as possible. But the alkalinizers of choice because this is what I had to figure out. I was always doing my detox, eating my alkaline diet, but at 48, it wasn't working. It wasn't enough. And I needed to shift my body from burning glucose to burning ketones.
Right.
To get that energy, to get that brain clarity, because we need ketones for good brain clarity after 50. There's the science behind it. Actually writing an article about it right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah. So, beet greens is one of my favorite things, and we throw them away, right? Like, okay, we'll eat the beets. We don't eat the beets in keto, but we know beets are amazing power food, borscht and things like that. But the beet greens are powerfully alkalinizing and essentially zero carbs. So saute them with some lemon to take out the bitterness, dandelions, collards, chard, kale, all the dark green leafies. We have to use those in abundance and get as much of them on a daily basis as we can. And of course, the cruciferous vegetables, trouble time saying that this morning.
Sometimes fast.
Cruciferous vegetables to really help with estrogen detoxification and the sulfur containing compounds and the nutrients that our body needs to help with hormone balance and hormone detoxification as well. And that's critically important. So using those that can make a huge difference. And then also herbs and nutrients that I use and combined to really help with that too, with help with alkalinizing, like my maca superfood combination, Mighty Maca Plus, which has maca, which is from the cruciferous family actually, and it's very alkalinizing and it's an adrenal adaptogen. And then greens, and it's all gluten free. So it's, the barley grass, so pre-barley, so it's the barley grass, everything is certified gluten-free, but we have the greens in there, we have turmeric, quercetin, resveratrol, grapeseed extract, a lot of other antioxidants to help the body detox and cleanse, which empowers health and that pH balance in your body. So that's always a good start, so that we're not the butter and bacon, and we're doing more of those healthy greens.
Well, and that's where I find so many people will jump on this keto bandwagon, quote unquote, and they are doing the butter and bacon, and they're like, oh, I've eliminated all my vegetables. And I'm like, holy smoke, stop right now. Because we absolutely need those veggies. We need the good greens, right? So I'm glad that you said all of that. And some of them that you spoke about are huge for, like you just said, detoxification, to help with the liver. Because what most people don't realize, and I'm just going to throw this out there, but most people, like, your fat holds on to the toxicity. And as we start to release that fat, then people are having all these extra toxins throughout their body. And I know you tie that into some of the keto craziness that we experience, but that's the fact of the matter. We've got to make sure that our body's completely detoxifying all the time, that we're not just like, people think of, the cleanses, I guess that's always out there, right, that they can jump on, but we can add in those different herbs and different nutrients and different foods on a daily basis. So we're constantly cleansing out that body of the toxins that we're exposed to every single day.
Absolutely. And that's so essential, because like keto flu, that's a toxicity reaction. I mean, that's 100% toxicity reaction. So when we work to get our body alkaline first, and again, test, don't guess, check, created urine test strips that have pH and ketone on them, so you're just using one. Easy and expensive, and you can just look and say, okay, am I alkaline before I push the keto? And I think that definitely makes a difference, because men can do this better. Men can be scarce on the veggies, right? They can. Somehow they do well that way. Women, no. And I think men long term, neither will do well. So we need those alkalinizers. We need those veggies, and it's crucial. And I've spoken with so many women, and you've heard this too, is that keto starts out great, but then I get a stall, and then I'm not feeling so good anymore. And this isn't, all of a sudden it stopped working. It's not really, your body's trying to protect itself
Absolutely.
in that way.
Right. So let's talk about intermittent fasting, because I think that's something that there's a lot of confusion out there, especially with women. And like I shared with you, and the viewers know this too, like I followed all the male bloggers because 5 years ago, there weren't any women that were out here talking about this stuff. And so guys can get away with intermittent fasting for a really long time and doing it 7 days a week and on end. But with women, hey, we've got hormones, and we got hormones that are changing 30 days out of the month when we're cycling. And then when we get into menopause, those hormones are also all different. So let's talk about that. What you recommend with women, how we get into intermittent fasting, how long do we intermittent fast? Let's cover all of that.
Yeah. And it's been a journey and trial, personal experience and professional experience, right? I'm 52 with a 10-year-old. There's hormonal shifts and 3 grown daughters. So 4 daughters altogether. So let's talk about hormone shifts. I know hormone shifts. I've been through the hormone shifts, and I really work to, create meals and environment and experiences to stop them, because 4 girls having PMS, well, 10-year-old's not started yet, but 3 having PMS at the house is not acceptable, let alone mom going through perimenopause, menopause, right? Not acceptable. We want to heal that. We want to keep our relationships healthy all the way around. So it's important. It's important for brain health. And so I think that the biggest thing with intermittent fasting is that we can push it too much. Now, if we're at a certain stage where we've been keto adapted for quite a long time, and there may be certain genotypes of us that can do long, consistent intermittent fasting, but it's not what I experience with most of my perimenopause clients. We need 2 to 3 meals a day, and we need to break fast by 10 a.m. So we need to break fast by 10 a.m. And so starting out that ritual is really important. I know the research says even if we have 12.5 hours between dinner and breakfast, we have reduced risk of breast cancer. And that's huge. So that is creating that insulin sensitivity, and it's critical. We don't have to push it to 18 hours, right? We don't have to do this 18-6, and even 15-9 is challenging. Intermittently, sure, and intermittently occasionally doing a longer fast once you've detoxed and hit at least 10%, within 10% of your ideal body weight, depending on your health overall. But then we can push it longer in certain instances. And there may be, ideas, and we can definitely, with physician guidance, work with longer fasting periods for overall health. 100% believe in that, but we've got to do the detox process first and regularly, so we do more good than harm, right, when we do these things. Mm-hmm. And so I have my 10-80-10 rule now, because I am a glutton at heart, right? I love eating, I love drinking, I love celebration, and that has to be part of our life. So this hard, strict rules are too rigid for me and most of the women that I work with. So I do my 10% feasting. We've got to have feasting in our life, whatever the holiday is, whatever celebration, let's celebrate. Feasting with good foods, right? Feasting with foods that nourish us, and, in events that nourish us. Always that feasting, that concept. And then 80% keto green, my concept of bringing your alkalinizers into ketosis, right? So combining the two, the keto green, again, more than diet, the lifestyle component. So 80% of the time we're living this way. And then maybe another 10% we can push it to 10% fasting. So Sunday is a fasting day for me. It just fits in. It's typically maybe that one day we have an early big dinner. My girls call it dinner. Sometimes it's a big brunch. And that's our meal for the day. There may be a bone broth in the evening or something like that. But, so that's kind of like how I've adapted it. Now I've been working with this methodology for over 4 or 5 years now. And it really keeps me clear. It keeps me focused. It keeps me on task and able to accomplish things that, with the brain fog and everything that I was experiencing, I wasn't able to.
It's something that I read in your book, and I don't want to spoil this for other people, but especially with women, as we transition to perimenopause and menopause, can we talk about the role of estrogen and glucose into the brain? I think that's
Yes.
huge.
It was a big eye-opening for me. And it was almost like I was reading a scientific journal, because the aha moment back to keto alkaline, when I was going through this at 48, I was like, well, there's got to be research on this. I found an article from 1924 done at Cambridge that looked at alkalinity with ketosis. And so alkalinity combined with ketosis, it was that aha moment, of course. And that's where I'm like, okay, let's test what's going on. This is all part of, let's do this with other people. And is it just me, or it's working with every over 50 woman I know? Yes. And so that was the big aha moment there. And the same thing, because the brain fog, the lack of clarity when I'm not keto for an extended period of time, and we'll go in and go out. I think flexibility and versatility is good, right? For resilience.
How our ancestors were. Yeah.
Absolutely. And like, fruit is not bad. Can I say that? Fruit is not evil. That is definitely a celebration, right? That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so there's an obscure article, just this one line that said estrogen is a glycolysis in the brain is an estrogen dependent factor. And that's how it read. And I was like, oh my God, of course. That's why ketones work better. And that's why I have more clarity. And I call it energized enlightenment. We get this keto green. It is like Christmas, red and green on our urine strips. It's like Christmas, this energized enlightenment, this heightened spiritual connection that at this point, it's like, okay, that's the juice of life. That's like the end goal, to have that sense of peace that surpasses all understanding, to be compassionate, to put out in the world continuously till we die, and to enjoy it in the meantime, right? And so that energized enlightenment, that clarity, we're using ketones for fuel, still in an alkaline environment. And that whole concept is women going through menopause need to utilize the benefit of ketosis to produce ketones for fuel in the brain, so that we have this mental clarity.
Right.
And currently, there's not studies looking at keto green, nothing other than I've done in my, now I've had almost 1,000 women go through my Magic Menopause program. So, have their results over time. It is empowering. It is empowering.
Yeah, because it's a huge complaint of women as they go through menopause, right? Of just, I can't think straight and all of that. So it was a huge aha when I read that just line in your book as well. So yeah, ladies, when we're dealing with all the perimenopausal thing, like when we really take a look at what we're eating and getting into ketosis, that's why we see so much brain clarity, especially towards those menopausal changes. So what other information do you really like? We'll get to like how they can find you and all that stuff, but what other pieces of information do you want to share with our viewers?
Well, I think too, especially as we're getting older, we're dealing with these hormonal fluctuations. It's keep looking for the answer. Fine tune it. Look at why not alkaline. Really discover the things that are causing you to have a stressed out physiology, right? Acidic urine is associated with stressed out physiology, stressed out with inflammation, and that's degenerative disease. And so discover for yourself what's going on. I think it's especially important because we know now so many more people are suffering with dementia and Alzheimer's. Anything we can do early on is preventative, 100% preventative. So know your markers. And in my book coming out, I talk about the 4 key markers that everyone must know, like the number on the scale, really important stuff. And then I think too, the concept of, like I'll say for women, if it's not a heck yes, it's a heck no. Having those boundaries and being able to enjoy our day with our present capacity and accept who we are as we are right now, and just know that each step is going in the right direction, and we can continue to grow and evolve, and there's no giving up. We're never too old, and the earlier we intervene, the better. We'll save marriages, save relationships, save families. We'll make a difference.
Absolutely. And that's something, it was a huge wake up aha for me recently too. It's just, as women, we give to everybody else, right? Because we have babies and we give to them. But again, even if you don't have children, I just see how women just are givers and we've got to be able to take care of ourselves for sure. And to be comfortable. And that's the thing, like stressors, I laugh, I'm an hour outside of Detroit. And people are always surprised when I tell them I never turn on the TV. It's like, why would I turn on the TV? Like, it might just be the Detroit news, but in my my body innately says, holy smokes, she's running from a bear. And so then that throws up the cortisol and everything else throughout the body. So we've got to like become aware and become in tune on how your body's responding. So share some information. Where can they find out more information? I know we've got all of the links here with the summit, but where can they find out more information about you and your programs, etc.?
Yeah, happy to give that. And yeah, you have the links for the ebook and free trial of Mighty Maca, free trial of Jilva. So those will be available for our listeners. And also just easy, dranna.com, DRANNA.com. I have a lot of information on my blogs, and my book is being released, The Hormone Fix. So I'm really super excited about that too.
Well, that's going to be awesome. So much great information for all of us women. So thank you so much for all your time today, Dr. Anna. I so appreciate this.
My pleasure.
Very informative. All right, we will talk soon.